It was my first time taking a girlfriend to visit my mother. I'd had previous girlfriends, but nothing as serious as with this one. Her name was Allison, and I loved her dearly. I hoped to one day marry her, so I knew at some point I would have to introduce her to her future mother-in-law. The door opened, and my mother stood there, smiling, looking as radiant as ever. She embraced Allison, giving her a hug and a kiss on each cheek. Mother pulled back from her and said, "Oh, Allison, I'm so thrilled to meet you. And you are even prettier than Chrissy described." We walk in and sat down on the couch in the living room. Allison giggled and said to me, "Chrissy, that's adorable. I didn't know your mother called you that." Mother touched me on the shoulder. "Oh, I meant Chris. Sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you, darling." Responding to Allison, she said, "Yes, I've called him Chrissy since he was a baby." Allison laughed and gave me a nudge and a wink. Turning to my mother, she said, "That's very sweet. And I guess when most people hear Chrissy, they probably think girl. Did people ever think Chris was a girl?" Mother replied, "Well, actually, yes, they did. And if I'm being totally honest, I didn't make it easy for them. You see, after having 4 boys, I so wanted a girl to be in the family. But no, once again, I was denied. So I thought dressing my new baby in some clothes that were a little girlish wouldn't hurt anyone. After all, in the old days, they used to keep boys in dresses for several years. So yes, between me calling him Chrissy and dressing him in pretty pink onesies, lots of people thought he was a girl. Isn't that right, sweetie?" I blushed furiously. We'd only just arrived and the humiliation had already begun. Allison was undoubtedly surprised, but played along with Mother. She said, "Oh, you poor thing. You must have wanted a girl so badly. So when exactly did you stop dressing him like a girl?" There was a pause, and Mother said, "Oh, who can remember these things?" She headed to the kitchen, continuing as she went, "As it's nearly evening, let me just get you two a cocktail." I breathed a sigh of relief, but Mother's failure to answer the question fully was probably Allison's first clue that there may be more to this story. As Mother served us all drinks, she asked, "Allison, would you like a tour of the house?" Allison said, "Oh, I would love it." The house was beautiful, elegant, and well-maintained, but I was already concerned about what was going to happen when we got to my old bedroom. We took our time, going from room to room, Mother pointing out things of interest. Finally, we got to a room that was perfect for a teenage girl. Pink walls, a beautiful canopy bed, floral curtains. There was a makeup vanity, empty except for some small perfume bottles. On one wall was a poster of a waterfall, on another, an ice dancer, and on a third, 2 framed photographs next to each other. One was of an Estee Lauder makeup model. The other was a picture of a very feminine, very pretty girl who looked to be in her mid-teens. Looking at the teenage girl, Allison asked, "Whose room is this?" Mother, lost in her thoughts for a moment, suddenly said, "Oh, that's my niece." After Chrissy moved out, we converted his room so she could stay here. She visits quite a bit, although Chrissy still uses it when he stays over sometimes. Allison walked over to the photo of the makeup model and looked at it. This was not a picture torn from a magazine, but a signed photo. It was inscribed with, "Dear Chrissy, from one lover of makeup to another, you look fabulous. Kiss, kiss, kiss." Allison spun around, "But it says—" Mother jumped in. "I know. Chrissy's cousin is named Chrissy too. Sometimes it gets so confusing around here." Laughing nervously, Mother quickly took the photo from Allison's hand, hung it back in place, and ushered us out of the room. Back downstairs, conversation recommenced, flowing naturally between Allison and my mother as they got to know each other better. Mother launched into her thoughts on cosmetics and the products that she swears by. I sat there quietly as they spoke. When Allison realized I wasn't part of the conversation, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. This must be boring you to tears." Mother smiled and said, "Well, it didn't used to. You know, with 5 men in the house, he was really the only one I could talk to about things like this. He used to keep me company when I put on my makeup, and I would explain everything to him. After a while, he became so knowledgeable that he would make suggestions to me." "Have you ever helped Allison with her makeup, honey?" Allison said, "Well, he has bought me some nice things, but I had no idea he was so well informed. Chris, why didn't you tell me that you knew so much about makeup? I'd love for you to give me some tips. How lucky for a girl to have a boyfriend who knows so much about girl things. How nice of your mother to teach you all of that. Mother smiled. Oh, it was really my pleasure. He was such a good listener and companion. I could tell that he was really interested too. He wasn't just doing it for me. Some boys might think that they shouldn't show an interest in something like makeup, but not him. I know some people might think it was strange for me to be treating my son like, well, let's face it, a little bit like a daughter. But he seemed fine with it. Isn't that right, Chrissy? I croaked out a, yes, Mother. Dinner was something of a respite. Mother asked Allison lots of questions about herself, and Allison chatted away about her work and family. After the meal, we went back to the living room, and Mother served us another drink. By this point, Mother and Allison were feeling far more comfortable with each other, and whatever inhibitions there were diminishing. Allison, in particular, seemed a bit tipsy. As they chatted, she got a bit emotional and said, "You know, I always knew Chris was special, more sensitive than any other boy I have dated. But to be honest, I did not suspect that he was so in touch with his feminine side. I want you to know that I think it's just wonderful." Mother smiled and said, "Oh, Allison, I'm so glad to hear you say that. And I'm sure Chrissy is as well." Allison turned to me. I smiled and gave her hand a squeeze. There was a pause. Then Mother continued, "Allison, there's more. Would you like to hear it?" I jumped in and said, "Oh, Mother, I think we've told Allison enough silly stories about me for tonight, don't you?" Unfortunately, to these strong, beautiful women, my opinion did not seem to matter very much. Allison said, "Oh no, I would love to hear more. I want to hear everything." I shrank into my seat. Mother spoke. "Everything? Are you sure?" "Well, Allison, Chrissy and I have shared a secret for many years. Just between the two of us. Are you sure you want to join the club?" Allison was fizzing with anticipation. She said, "Oh, I love secrets. Do tell." Mother said, "Well, I'll do better than that. I'll show you." I suddenly got very upset, blurting out, "Oh no, please, Mother, please don't." Calmly, Mother said, "Don't be silly, dear. I'm sure Allison would love to see. And don't worry about her judging you. I can tell that Allison is the kind of girl that will love every part of you. Isn't that right, Allison?" Allison gave me a big hug and said, "Of course that's true, Chris. No offense, but if I wanted to be with a big macho man, I wouldn't be with you." With that, Mother went and got the photo album. Before she opened the first page, she said, "Beginning when Chrissy was 8 years old, he and I had a very special routine. Every Sunday, my husband would take the other boys out, and Chrissy and I would have some time alone together. Are you ready?" She opened the first page to the picture of the very first time I wore a dress. No ordinary dress, mind you, but an ultra-girly, sparkly, cerise pink princess dress. Allison's mouth was wide open. Mother said, "Wasn't he just darling? Can't you just see why I needed to put him in a dress? Adorable." I couldn't bear it. I ran out of the room and upstairs to my old bedroom. I threw myself down on the bed, tears streaming from my eyes. I hoped someone would follow me, would tell me they were sorry, that they would put the album away, but no one came. I lay on the bed in the darkened bedroom for a long time. They must have been going through the entire album together, looking at all those pictures of me dressed as a girl throughout the years. Were they laughing at me? Was Allison disgusted by me? Embarrassed? How could this be her boyfriend? Her boyfriend? The sissy. And once a sissy, always a sissy. It was inevitable that she would break up with me. I felt defeated. It was true that our girl time had started out as a way for Mother to have some fun with her pretend daughter. But by the time we stopped, when I was almost 14 years old, it felt like the only time I really got to be myself. I might not have initially wanted to wear pretty dresses and makeup, but after a while, I grew to love it. That picture hanging on the bedroom wall was the last time how I felt on the inside matched how I looked on the outside. A pretty girl. It had been many years since, but I remember that day like it was yesterday. When I was younger, Mother would do my makeup. Then over time, she showed me how, and I did more and more. Finally, in that picture on the wall, not only had I done my makeup by myself, I had also styled my long blonde hair, made myself smooth all over, and picked out the most gorgeous baby pink mini dress. Looking at it now, I feel so proud that that was me. I know I had youth on my side, but I looked amazing. Finally, my door opened and the lights turned on. It was Allison. She glanced up at the framed photo of the girl on the wall, the girl she now recognized as not my cousin, but as me. She sat down next to me on the bed and said, "Chrissy, I promised your mother I will take care of you, okay?" I sobbed and nodded. Allison continued, "That's a good girl. Now sit up and close your eyes." I followed her instructions. The next thing I knew, I could feel lipstick gliding across my lips. "Oh, your mother was right. So pretty." She kissed me gently on the lips. Allison took my hand and together we walked out of my bedroom and downstairs to Mother. I had spent years trying to put my girlish Sissy side behind me, to find a girlfriend and live a normal life. And I felt like I had done that with Allison, even though I knew somewhere in the back of my mind I had put a very real part of me in a box, locked it, and buried it. And now in one evening, it had all spilled out. It was clear, looking from the first to the last photo in the album, that I had blossomed into a confident young lady as the years had passed. But truthfully, at this very moment, I felt like I was all the way back to the person in that very first picture, the boy who was wearing a dress for the first time, who was afraid of what was happening to him, but excited at the same time. A boy who had agreed to the Sunday dress-up game to please his mother, a boy who was nervous about what was happening, but was also entranced by the polish on his fingers, who loved the swirl of his dress around his knees, who loved the feel of how his underwear held him tight, and who loved, even more than any of that, the feeling of having entered a special, secret club with his mother. That photo on the wall was the final time I dressed like a girl. As I grew older and my body began to change, reality hit hard and I knew I had to say goodbye to that girl. I went through a period of mourning. I really missed her. But now, here I was, standing in front of Mother and Allison, feeling the lipstick on my lips that Allison had put on me, feeling once again like a little girl, and wondering what was going to happen to me. As we stood by the door getting ready to leave, Mother invited us both to come back next weekend. She said, "Maybe we can have a little makeup party together." "Oh, Chrissy, it's been so long. I'll bet you would love that, wouldn't you?" I wasn't sure what I wanted. I was so confused. I was about to respond when Allison cut in. She said, "That's a lovely offer, but we'll have to think about it. This has been quite an evening, and Chrissy and I have a lot to digest." Mother replied to Allison, "Oh, of course, I understand," and kissed her goodbye on both cheeks. Allison and I were both quiet in the car on the way home. Whether I liked it or not, this evening had changed the entire perception of each other and our relationship. It was late. Allison and I got ready for bed. I usually slept in my briefs, but tonight Allison said, "Here, why don't you try sleeping in this?" And she handed me one of her little baby doll nighties. I guess after everything she had seen and heard that night, it would have been odd for me to be embarrassed about putting on her nightie, but still, I was. I turned away from her. It floated down my body, the sheer material caressing me as it fell into place. Blushing, I shyly slipped into bed next to her. In the darkness, I snuggled into her and laid my head on her chest. She stroked my hair. I felt safe and secure with her. I felt submissive. "Do you know what you want, Chrissy?" said Allison. I was so confused. I buried my head into her chest and shook it. "No." She continued, "That's okay. I understand. I'll take care of everything, okay? I am going to ask you some questions, and you just nod yes or no, okay?" I nodded yes. "Do you want to stay my boyfriend?" I nodded yes. "Do you miss dressing up like a pretty girl in the picture, wearing makeup and dresses?" I nodded yes. "Would you like to try doing that again?" I paused for a moment, then nodded yes. "If we could make you look that pretty again, would you like to go out with me like that? Two hot girls going to a club? We could dress all sexy, miniskirts and high heels, and lots of makeup. We could flirt with the boys, and then I could take you home and make an honest woman out of you. Would you like that?" Another pause. Then I nodded Yes. These questions were exciting me, and I shifted away from Allison a little, trying not to let it show, but she knew. She continued, sometimes, even if you're not playing dress up, I may want you to wear things that are a little more feminine. Are you going to let me do that? Now I was getting very excited. I nodded yes, right away. Okay, baby. We just need to have a couple of ground rules, okay? At this point, Allison's hand slipped up under my nightie to my middle. She found my boy part and began to stroke it. Ground rules? I would have walked over hot coals for her at this point. I know you love your mother, and you have a special relationship with her, but that special relationship is now with me. Do you understand? I nodded yes as I pushed against her. I decide what you wear and when you wear it. I decide if you are a boy, a girl, or something in between. Even if you are embarrassed by what I decide you will wear, you will do it without complaining. I nodded yes again. Allison continued to touch me as she spoke. My body shuddered, and I collapsed against her. Allison kissed me on my head. That's a good girl. Sweet dreams, Chrissy.